think that we are good to go, hopefully. Question mark. Question mark. All right. Well, it's 7:33. There was a little bit of technical difficulties before, but we are all set. Let me go ahead and make sure that we are good on the other channel. If I look and see the YouTube, should be able to see myself. It says I'm live now, and we're good. Awesome. So looks like I don't have a chat box, so go ahead and leave me comments in the comment area. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section, or you can go ahead and send me questions to Twitter. I'll put up a thing for Twitter so that you guys can go ahead and do that. Let me see what we can do here. Toolbox. Comment tracker, let's do that. At Mr_Colicchio. Hey, look at that. Boom. Let's change that though. There it is. Let's save that. Okay, guess not. Much better. All right. So looks like none of you are in this room yet. That's good. Oh, now we have 3. Even better. 3 is always better than 0. I think the health is good. We're good. All right. So we'll just let a few more people get in there. And yeah, all right. We'll just wait for people to do their thing. Matriculate in slowly but surely. My roommate's making food. It smells delicious. What are you making?
Salami and cheese and bread.
That sounds good. Salami, cheese, and bread. It's a man's food right there. All right. See anything of importance there? All right. Still waiting for some more people. Looks like we're up to 8 now. Oh my goodness, we could break double digits. This is crazy. So we'll wait for that. I'm gonna go on and grab my phone so that we can see if there's any questions on there. Should be on my dresser or on my nightstand. Yes, that would be it. Roommate for the win. Thank you, sir. Okay, looks like I got a question from Mr. Michael Kane. Hello, Michael. Yes, I can go over the French and Indian War. It's pretty simple. If you don't like to hear me talk about it, you can have, there's a video on it, John Green's crash course video or my teacher, Mr. Hughes' video. Either or, both are good. So let's start off. French and Indian War. You have 2 colonial empires, the French and the British, who are in North America, and they're kind of colliding. The French are in Canada and the Ohio River Valley. The English are on the colonies. Now, you can talk about the stuff that happened before in Europe, which is like King George II kind of infringing upon French stuff and kind of making them mad. Now, France and England have always been like enemies since like the 100 Years' War, even all the way back to like Battle of Hastings and all that nonsense. But all you really need to know is that France and England aren't friends. They're not friends. So stemming from this, we have 2 colonial empires kind of dueling it out for supremacy. And the Ohio River Valley, which is the land between the Mississippi River and the Appalachian Mountains, is pretty much up for grabs, according to the English, who there's a Virginia governor. He sends George Washington, that George Washington, into the Ohio River Valley to go get Fort Duquesne. And Fort Duquesne is this little fort in what's present-day Pittsburgh. And Washington gets his butt kicked there. He gets his butt kicked at Fort Necessity. And this pretty much starts off the French and Indian War. And at first, it's the French winning some victories. They're getting some help from the Huron and Ottawa Indians. And the English obviously have the colonists, but they also have the help of the Iroquois. Now, the Iroquois were kind of persuaded because Ben Franklin, tried to get the colonists to unite. And And if you remember when I showed you guys the Albany Plan of Union, this is the famous image of which Ben Franklin sketched a cartoon, and I'm going to bring up the image in a second so that you guys can see it. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, so if you look at my screen share, you'll see the join or die, which is the sketch that Ben Franklin did. You can see it's got the New England, it's got New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina. Basically, this is the first time the colonies had all come together to try to unite, and without the British's help. And this was kind of like that belief, that conception of independence. If you kind of think of it, it's not so much the idea of independence, but it's kind of like, you know, like how when people have a baby and that moment of conception, that's the join or die, is that moment of conception, that moment where that idea is created. So, all right, we're going to stop broadcasting that and return it back to my beautiful face. We'll go back to the war itself. The war kind of has a turn when William Pitt becomes the general after Braddock dies, and William Pitt comes in. He captures Fort Duquesne and renames the city Pittsburgh. You know, Pittsburgh, William Pitt. You know, people love naming stuff after themselves. And then we have a couple series of victories for the British, and the British kind of work themselves all the way up through New York and into Canada. Hold on, let me get a map of that so that you can see. And basically, the English win a series of battles, and they're doing a pretty good job. Let me re-screen share my screen so you guys can see this. So as you can see, all these victories going around. Starts out here, the British take back Duquesne after Braddock's defeat in 1755. So here's necessity, here's Duquesne. Then the English go on like this huge walk, and they just start destroying stuff. You can talk and see all the blue, and that blue is English victories. Red is for the French. So where the French win here and the French win there, that's where we see French victories. But the blue, and obviously the big one, is here at the Battle of Quebec when General Wolfe comes through, and they capture Quebec, and they do a pretty good job of defeating the French. Now, when the French are defeated, there's the Treaty of Paris, and in the Treaty of Paris, which is in 1763, France loses two things. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you the map of USA before and after the French and Indian War, so that you guys can see the amount of land that's the difference. Okay. So, as you can see here, we have two different North Americas. Here you have the British American colonies, Spanish Florida, and this yellow goldenrod France. Now notice how Britain has this upper part of Canada that nobody cares about because it's like uninhabitable. Then, after the post-war boundaries in 1763, you have the British American colonies, but then there's this line down the Appalachian Mountains that kind of make up this proclamation line, this line that says, you know, colonists can't go further. The idea that, oh, this land is owned by the British, but they can't go past this line. This is generally due to the fact that colonists were, you know, they wanted them to stay on the coast, but the British wanted to maintain good trading relations with the Native Americans. So all of this was pretty much Native American reservations. And people asked, well, how could they, how could you enforce this? Well, it's simple. They would have troops that are staying on the proclamation line, preventing anybody from going over this line. So ultimately, the war was costly. The French and Indian War was really costly, and the British started to tax the colonists, and we all know what that leads to. So, yeah, good times. Okay, 6'6", 200 pounds. Yeah, I gotta find a way to get that taken down. Okay, I'm gonna guess that's Aaron. That seems like Aaron. Okay, Aaron, can you give an overview on Bacon's Rebellion? I guess I could do that. So Nathaniel Bacon, he's like the cousin of Governor William Berkeley, and this is Virginia, Jamestown we're talking about, and Berkeley is trying to prevent his people from getting slaughtered by the Native Americans, and they all have giant plantations because they have cash crops. And basically the idea is, you know, people are like, Berkeley, you're not protecting us. Native Americans are like killing us. And they're like, what are you going to do about this? And he's like, well, you know, we'll get to it. We'll build some walls or something. And they're like, you're not being effective enough. So Nathaniel Bacon, his cousin, comes in and is like, I'll kill all the Native Americans. And Berkeley's like, whoa, wait, don't do that, because I'm totally trading with a lot of them and I don't want you to kill them because then I won't have anything. Okay, so basically with this whole idea of Bacon's Rebellion, it comes from this government, which is Berkeley, versus Bacon, which is like the people, the plantation owners, the small farmers, the ones who were getting, you know, attacked by the Native Americans. So Bacon goes off and tries to kill all the Native Americans. Berkeley calls him like a traitor and a rebel and going against the government. Bacon actually kicks Berkeley out and burns Jamestown to the ground, but in, I guess, a stroke of dumb luck, Bacon gets dysentery, and much like your family in the Oregon Trail, he died. And Jamestown was saved pretty much by Berkeley coming back and hanging the rest of Bacon's rebels. But you could say that in a way that this is a long-term cause of the American Revolution, because Bacon's Rebellion is the first step in people rising up against the government. You know, Berkeley, you know, might have been the good guy here. Bacon might have been the bad guy, but this is still people rising up against the government. So that's Bacon's Rebellion. It happens in Virginia. It deals with the plantation owners and the small farmers dealing against the government. All right, let's take a look at the other questions. PC Master Race. Yeah, I'm doing this on a Mac, so PCs suck. Have fun with your blue screen of death. Right, Sam? Yep. Macs are superior in every single way. Always remember that. All right, let's see. Chat. All right. Okay. Mitch Bennett wants to know, can I go over King Philip and King Philip's War again? Of course I can. Who doesn't like talking about a guy who gets his head lobbed off and put on a pike for 20 years? All right, number one, that you need to know about King Philip, okay? I'll actually pull up a map so you can see. It takes place in Connecticut, and obviously Connecticut is in the New England colonies, and King Philip was actually not his real name. He was called Metacomb, and Metacomb was trying to get an alliance with a bunch of other Native American tribes against the New England colonists. It was kind of like a last-ditch effort to try and prevent colonists from taking over the New England colonies and taking over Native Americans' land. They saw what they did to the Pequots 40 years ago, and which was exterminate them like actual genocide. And Metacomb is like, yo, my father, who was like a Wampano chief, he was way too nice. We need to be assertive before these white people like come in and, you know, exterminate us like they did to the Pequots. And so he goes about this a pretty interesting way. He gets like almost all the Native American tribes to kind of unite together, and he just starts raiding Connecticut villages. So I'm going to share this screen so that you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So if you take a look at the screen, this is sort of the, here's the idea of where it all starts. You can tell by the arrows of where it starts. So it starts here in Swansea in 1675. And obviously this is in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Here's Plymouth. But for the most part, these are the 3 out of the 4 New England colonies that are being affected. Notice how the battles are all spread out. You can tell that the English offenses, which are the big arrows, and the grayer arrows are the ones that are coming from the Mohawk, against the Native American Indians. So we have Indians actually fighting Indians at this point. It's pretty interesting to see that the Iroquois Indians are coming in and helping as well. So what happens is there's these battles in Swansea, which are a major attack, Indian attack on the English right here. And there's some more at Brookfield and Lancaster and Groton and Northfield and Deerfield. But then you have major English attack on Indians at like Hopewell Swamp and I can't tell, Nipsachuk and Great Swamp, Pocasset, Bridgewater Swamp. Okay, things are just getting crazy and crazy. And you can tell that basically it all ends right here. The Wampanoags attack and evacuate in July 1675. And then a year later, Metacomb returns and is killed in August in 1676. Because he fails at the top left corner, Metacomb fails in a mission to make Mohawk allies. He tries to make allies with the Mohawk Indians, and they turn him down and start fighting with the colonists. Probably his worst idea was not being able to succeed in secure an alliance with the Mohawk Indians and the Iroquois, because they ultimately turn the battle on him, and he's screwed at that point. Metacomb is killed. His body is taken where it's beheaded. His left arm, left leg, and right leg are attached to 4 different horses, and they're slapped on the butt, and they pull him in 4 different directions, splitting his body in quarters. Isn't this lovely? Yummy. Nothing like drawing and quartering somebody to set the mood for a test. So that's Metacomb. I hope that kind of helps. Basically, the ultimate effect of that was the fact that if you look and see these like dots, you'll see that it says these were the Indian captives that were sold into slavery to the West Indies. So if you survived this terrible war, which it killed off like 1/5 of the New England population and like 40% of the Native American population, if you survived as a Native American, you were probably sold into slavery. After this, there was not a lot of Native Americans left in New England. Pretty sad to say. Okay, considering the fact that like these people like saved the Plymouth colony and everything. So yeah, good times, good times. Hey, we're up to 14 people. This would be the 14 people that I can probably guarantee are gonna do well on the test tomorrow. 14 out of 140. Oh boy, it's gonna be a long day. All right, let's take a look at, see if there's any other sort of questions being asked. Zenger trials. Yeah, I can go over the Zenger trials. That one was pretty easy. So today we talked about the Zenger trials. If you didn't watch the video, this was when the sub was supposed to be, was there and supposed to be teaching you something. So I don't like ever leaving school. Okay, so Peter Zenger is a journalist. He writes a paper in New York and he's criticizing the governor of New York, and the guy's name is ironically Bill Cosby. I'm guessing he's not as bad as modern day Bill Cosby, but like still pretty bad. Anyways, so William Cosby, we'll just call him, he is doing something wrong, and you know, Zenger's calling him out on him. He's basically calling him an idiot because of his like bad practices. And what's happening is, you know, there's no idea of a freedom of speech component yet. Like today, I can say that somebody's an idiot. Like I can say, like, for instance, you know, enter important person here as an idiot. Like you can fill in the blanks. And I'm not going to get in trouble because I have freedom of speech. Back then, that was kind of like a fine line. There wasn't really any freedom of speech yet. And so this is a huge case in that idea, because Peter Zenger goes to trial and he's like, yo, I have freedom of speech. And the judge is like, no, you don't, but the jury will decide if you do. And the jury decides that Peter Zenger does have some freedom of speech. You know, this is a democracy, which, you know, the middle colonies tried to be. Middle colonies were pretty democratic. then it had to be, exercising freedom of the press and some aspects of freedom of speech, which if we think about our Constitution today, everybody has freedom of speech. Everybody has freedom of the press. You can print whatever you want. If you're going to call somebody out for being bad, you can do that. If you want to criticize the president, you can do that. If you want to criticize the governor, you can do that. If you want to criticize your parents, you can do that. Just there will be consequences, but you can still do it. You're going to go to jail for it, for certainly. All right, let me take a look at Twitter box and see if that's going to be on there. 13 people. Are we losing people? Are you that bored? My goodness. Whoa, Twitter app updated. I don't even know what's going on right now. All right. No new questions. Guys, if you have questions, send it to @Mr_Colicchio. Come on now. How am I supposed to answer questions if you're not going to give me anything to answer? Awful. Just terrible. Let's take a look. Back to the Remind 101. Okay, Mitch wants to ask another question. He wants to know the Encomienda system. Okay, I'm just gonna go a step further than that. Like I could talk about Encomienda, and I will, but I want to talk about Columbian Exchange first, because why not? So Columbian Exchange. If you don't know what Columbian Exchange is, it obviously has to do something with Christopher Columbus. And we call it the Columbian Exchange because of the idea that after the period of Columbus, there was this, idea of a shift where people started to eat different foods. People started to utilize different animals. People started growing different crops and trees. And unfortunately, people got a crap load of diseases. I want to show you guys a picture that I found that might be able to, hold on a second, might be able to let you understand what I'm trying to say in terms of the whole Columbian Exchange thing. So there is an example, and this was a project we did where we all looked up like our different foods or animals or, daisies and posies and whatnot. So let's take a look. Things that were native in the Americas that came to the Old World. So New World to Old World. Sweet potatoes, squash, pumpkins, peppers, tobacco, turkeys, pineapples, cacao, peanuts, potatoes, tomatoes, beans, vanilla, corn. Okay? All things that are good that went to Europe. And syphilis. Syphilis is bad. Okay? Things that came from Europe and Asia and Africa to the Americas. Onions, citrus fruits, grapes, olives, turnips, coffee beans, bananas, sugarcane, peaches and pears, honeybees, grains, wheat, all sorts of grains, wheat, rice, barley, oats, all sorts of cattle, sheep, pigs, horses, and of course, everyone's favorite diseases. Smallpox, flu, typhus, measles, malaria, diphtheria, and whooping cough. Ooh, so as you can tell, good things, great things like food, animals, bad things, disease. Okay? Think about how many people die from smallpox. 8 out of 10 Native Americans die as a result of smallpox. That's awful. Good job, white people. All right? So, as you can see, Columbian Exchange, not so good. Now, why am I saying this on top of the Encomienda system? Well, Encomienda, which is spelled E-N-C-O-M-I-E-N-D-A, Encomienda, it's a system of slavery that the Spanish used on native indigenous people prior to Africans being used. The whole reason why Africans were used as slavery was because their bodies were, immune to tropical diseases like malaria, influenza, whooping cough, smallpox. They weren't going to die from those diseases. So that's why they became the slave labor, because the Encomienda system, which utilized indigenous native populations that have never been, they never had vaccines at that time. So they were dying in massive quantities. The Spanish are like, oh, these indigenous people are just dying so easy. well, yeah, we'd all die if we didn't have vaccines for like, meningitis or polio when we were kids too. So I guess we would be terrible slaves. So, oh well. All right, so that's that. Let's take a look, see what we got for any more YouTube comments. Anything? Nothing. Oh, sweet. 2 new comments. Okay, triangle trade from Allie. I can do that. And I've already done the Albany plan. If you want to just rewatch the video, it's in the beginning when we talked about the French and Indian War, but it's on there. But I can do triangle trade, which is probably the easiest thing to talk about. Okay, so triangle trade. If you don't know what triangle trade is, it does involve a triangle because it involves 3 continents. Those continents are North America, Europe, and Africa. Basically, the way that this works, and I will get a semi-confusing picture to see this. So let's take a look at the screen share once again. Okay. So as you can see, it all starts in Europe. Europe, they're the colonizers. So what are they going to do? It's going to be simple. They're going to settle in the New World, in the colonies. They're going to settle in the Caribbean. They're going to settle in South America and into Mexico and stuff. So when they get there, they're like, oh, this is a great place to grow tobacco and grow sugar and all these things that we, really want. Okay? So what does it take for those farms to be really successful? Okay, if you don't know anything about tobacco or sugar or indigo or cotton, that's heavy labor. Okay, picking cotton is not easy. Okay, turning sugar cane into sugar, super tough. So what better way to get this stuff made at a high volume than using slave labor? They did have indentured servants, but those people just became, went from unpaid labor to paid labor. Nobody wants to pay for labor. Okay, so they go to West Africa, and at this time, Africa has like a bunch of kingdoms that Europe's just not going to be able to conquer. Okay, they don't understand the coastline. They don't understand the geography. It's like crazy in Africa with like jungles and desert. They're just not ready for that kind of fight yet. So what do? They trade. They give the African people manufactured goods like beer, guns, cloth, and of course metal tools because Africa didn't have metal. So they trade it, and in return, the Africans give people, not their people, but like other people. Think about like your annoying neighbors. Wouldn't you just love to sell them into slavery? Or maybe your little brothers or sister. Pretty much what the Africans did. They said, oh, thanks for this bottle of liquor. Here, have this person. And so what happened was they would, put them on these ships, go through the Middle Passage, and land in 3 places. Either South America, which is where most people went, the Caribbean islands, or the New World in the British colonies. When they got here, they worked on the farms, and then they sent, whatever they worked on back to Europe. Sugar and molasses and wood from the Caribbean, rice, silk, indigo, cotton, tobacco from the colonies. And then that would go back to Europe, in which would be turned into manufactured goods, which would be sold in the colonies and back to Africa, and the whole thing is started over. So that's triangular trade. Now, don't get this confused with mercantilism. Mercantilism is way different. Okay, if I was to show you mercantilism, let me see. There's really no good pictures of mercantilism. All right, mercantilism is a little bit different. I'm going to stop sharing the screen because I don't want you guys to get confused. So mercantilism, there's, you have two countries. Well, you have one country, England, and you have their colonies. And basically, with mercantilism, the point of the colonies, which is us, we are being used, abused, exploited. for our raw materials, our natural resources, our tobacco, our cotton, our sugar, our indigo, our corn, our everything. Even the stuff that we don't produce on the land, so like whale oil, iron ore, stuff that's maybe not coming out of for crops, but other stuff that can be turned into something. England is like, well, we can take that from you because technically it's ours anyways. And then we're going to take it, turn it into stuff that you like, because you can't do anything with iron ore. You have to refine it and turn it into metal. And when you turn it into metal, you can turn it into, turn it into weapons. You can turn it into stuff to build things. All things you need to sell, okay? And when they sell it, who are they selling it back to? The colonies, okay? So basically, that's like you harvesting all this tobacco, sending the tobacco in barrels to England, and then buying cigarettes from English people. Like, you could have done this yourself, but you chose to buy it from the English because you are using this mercantilism to basically increase their profits. Okay, so that's going to make people mad, because what are they going to do to ensure this? They're going to pass certain laws. They're going to pass the Navigation Acts. They're going to say that you can't trade with other people. You can't trade with the French. If you trade with the French, well, we're going to, take away your ship. If you try to smuggle things, we're going to throw you in jail. If you try to buy French goods, there's going to be an increasingly high tariff on it that's going to make lower goods more expensive than the British goods. You want to buy British goods only. Okay? They're going to start passing acts like Sugar Acts and Molasses Acts, where they're going to tax the crap out of foreign products instead of you buying domestic. Think about cars. Like, why do people drive American cars rather than like German cars or like Japanese or Korean cars? Because those cars have tariffs on them. They have import taxes. Why? Because the government wants us to buy American cars. They want us to buy Chevy, Ford, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep. They don't want us to buy like Honda or Toyota or Mercedes. Definitely not Volkswagen. Ooh. So here's the thing. That's the whole reason of mercantilism. They're trying to make a profit for England. At the same time, using us, in the meantime, they're trying to use us for our natural resources and our raw materials. Okay? All right, let's take a second to see if there's any more questions. Triangle trade. Yes, we've done that. We've done that. House of Burgesses. I can do House of Burgesses. Okay. All right. House of Burgesses. Basically, you need to know the types of government in the colonies. House of Burgesses is in Jamestown, Virginia, and a Burgess is like a representative. Think of the House of Burgesses like the House of Representatives. A Burgess is just a person who works for the government. At the top of the government, there's a governor. Okay? Then you have the Burgesses, which are the representatives that you elect. We have a representative democracy today. We elect people to make decisions for us. Their job is to decide on things so that we don't have to do it. Okay? Like, I don't want to vote on if today is National Lobster Day or not. I just don't care. I'd rather have my senator or a representative doing that. So the House of Burgesses is a representative democracy, meaning I elect somebody, a Burgess, to make those decisions. Now, on the flip side, in New England, we have self-government. We have the Mayflower Compact. We have town hall meetings. We have rich white men who are heavily involved in the church making all the decisions in the government. Okay, Massachusetts is a theocracy. You know, the government and the religion are like this. They just love each other. Whereas in the middle colonies, the government and the church are separate. Okay, yeah, people are religious, but there's more religious toleration and freedom in the middle colonies than there are in the northern. Okay, remember, New England, no religious toleration except Rhode Island. Rhode Island's like cool with everything. You get to the middle colonies, everybody loves everybody. ELE, everybody loves everybody. Southern colonies, a little bit more tolerant. Maryland's got like a bunch of Catholics. Georgia's got like a bunch of people that are indebted or former prisoners that are living there. But we're talking in terms of government. Remember, House of Burgesses is Virginia, representative democracy. Religions. Michael, of course I'd love to talk about religions. So the whole idea of the New World is this great place that people can like go to start their new life and worship whatever religion we want to. When you think about it today, the United States of America is a place where, man, if you want to be a Christian, you be a Christian. You want to be a Muslim, be a Muslim. You want to be a Sikh, be a Sikh. You want to worship the flying spaghetti monster? You do that. You don't want to worship anything? You don't have to. Okay? You do you. This all starts because people came here originally seeking religious freedom. You have your Puritans in New England. You have your Quakers in Pennsylvania. You have your Catholics in Maryland. And you have Protestants all over the place. Okay? So that's pretty much what you need to know there. Once again, religiously tolerant. We're talking middle Quakers, those nonviolent people. Like my roommate. Oh, he's such a Quaker. Aren't you, buddy? He's not paying attention, but he is a Quaker. Guilford College. All right, let's take a look. Any more comments? More comments. Let's see. Do we have to know who founded each colony? Yeah, that would be a good idea. I do recommend that. Especially the big ones. Like, you got to know, like, John Smith for Jamestown, and James Oglethorpe for Georgia, and Lord Baltimore, John Calvert for Maryland, and William Penn for Pennsylvania. Please don't screw up Penn in Pennsylvania. That one's like the easiest one. The easiest one. His name is like literally in the colony. Penn. William Penn. Pennsylvania. I believe in you. You guys can do that. Roger Williams for Rhode Island. John Winthrop for Massachusetts. That crazy conservative dude who was like, there shouldn't be any difference between the church and the state. I don't know. Hooker for Connecticut. I guess you could say Manu for New Amsterdam, and then Duke of York for New York. And I would just say Penn for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. You had those 8 proprietors in the Carolinas. You don't really have to remember them. I would just stick with like Oglethorpe and John Smith and Raleigh for Roanoke. Other than that, you don't really need to know more than that. Definitely know Roger Williams for Rhode Island. He's pretty important. And then Winthrop for Massachusetts for sure. All of these notes which you have, like you have the charts, like you have like those, you know, who founded it, why did they found it, we all have those notes. If you don't have those notes, you can look on the website and you can find them. They're on there, trust me. All right. The Salem witch trials. I can tell you for sure, as cool as the Salem witch trials are, there's probably not going to be a question on that test about the Salem witch trials. I just don't think that, as much as I love the Salem witch trials, the idea of it, you know, people starting rumors and that leading to the death of 24 people or something, that's crazy. Like 100 people got, you know, put in jail, all because some girls were just like taking it a little too far. I'm pretty sure that, like, if you think about the Salem witch trials and how ridiculous it is, like, I totally would have been like burned at the stake or accused of being a witch. I pissed off a lot of people in my life, especially in this school. Thanks for trial by, you know, innocent until proven guilty. But yeah, don't worry about the Salem witch trials too much. Aaron, why do I think you're 6'6", 200? I don't. So don't worry about it. All right, let's go on to the questions before I kick you off, Aaron. Do more questions. Is this it? Is this all we have? Let me see if we got any more questions. Okay, Great Awakening. This won't actually be on your test. I can kind of explain it a little bit. If you don't like the way I explain it, that's totally fine. Once again, Mitch with the great question. Thank you for keeping this going. Great Awakening. This is the Protestant, like, you ever go to like a crazy church sermon? All started because of the Great Awakening. So you have these people, like you have like this young pastor, George Whitefield, and he's just energetic. He's just going from church to church and just like making it fun. He's like yelling and he's just like, you know, trying to get people energized about church. And what it does is it gets more division in Protestant. They like these Protestant Puritans see this guy and they're like, whoa, this guy is crazy. He's way more fun than my cray-crays at the Puritan church. I don't want to be a Puritan anymore. I want to be whatever this guy is. He's cool. And so what happens is there's a bunch of division. Like people get more religious and that spreads all down the coast, but there's more denominations of Protestantism. There's so many Protestant denominations. It's insane. I don't think I could name them all. There's Baptists, and Methodists, and Presbyterians, and Calvinists, and Lutherans, and oh God, there's so many. And this is all because of the Great Awakening, this idea that people are awakening to this idea of, you know, God and, you know, eternal damnation. This is like the hellfire and brimstone people that are like, you know, this is the craziest quote I heard from the Great Awakening. The craziest quote I ever heard was, every day you should be pulled down to hell, if not for the grace of God's hand pulling you up. I was like, what? That is crazy. Every day I'm supposed to sink through the ground to hell, but thankfully God is like holding me up. He's like a bungee cord. That's crazy. So, bunch of cray-crays preaching is all you need to know about the Great Awakening. Making more people worship Protestantism more than ever. And I mean, if you think about it, there have been so many Protestant presidents in our time. The first non-Protestant president was actually Kennedy in 1960. Like, that's crazy. Everybody else was like a Protestant. He was like the first non-Protestant. Pretty wild. Okay, let's take a look, see if there's any other questions, since you guys are pretty quiet. Spanish versus English colonial class system. That's a good question. Not going to get too much into the Spanish one because this isn't world history and a lot of you might remember it. So with Spanish class, basically you need to know that there was the encomienda system, there was slaves, there was mulattoes, there was Creoles, there was like the conquistadors who were like the Cortez guys that come in and just rape and pillage and burn everybody to the ground. But then in the English class system, this is way easier. So let's talk about the South. We have the plantation owners at the top of the pyramid. Then we have the small farmers. Then we have the poor towns workers. And at the ground, not even on the pyramid, we have slaves. Okay, pretty easy. But between the slaves and the poor town workers, there's like this little bit of speck, that's where the women are. So women are completely the lowest in society before slaves. So it's like slaves, women, poor towns workers, small farmers, plantation owners. It doesn't get better for women in any colonial region. Like women are considered like the lowest of the low. And then there's the slaves. So it's like slaves, women, poor townspeople. Now, as you get higher into like the middle and New England regions, there aren't any plantation owners, obviously. There are rich people, though, and we kind of view them as like the bourgeoisie. I would not use the words aristocratic because we don't have nobles in America, thankfully, but like we have rich white people. and like rich white people are going to be the ones that are like trying to exercise the most power. But then you have the middle class, who are the ones like the Thomas Jefferson people, the one who Thomas Jefferson's going to speak to. Thomas Jefferson obviously was not middle class, but he's the one that the middle class are going to like really like, because he's going to fight for their rights and powers. But that's really all. You don't need to know. As long as you know there was like a wealthy class, a middle class, and a lower class, then the women, and then the slaves, you're good. You're good. Okay, let's keep going. Any other comments? Stono County Rebellion. Okay, Stono County Rebellion. We didn't really talk about this too much, and there was a reason for that. Number one that you need to know is slaves. It's a slave rebellion. Okay, slaves do not like to be treated like crap. Okay, no human does. If I, whipped you guys every day and cursed at you and made you work outside in the harsh conditions, you probably hate my guts more than you already do. So here's the thing. The Stono County Rebellion is in Stono County, which I believe is in Virginia. It's either in Virginia or Maryland. Let me pull up a map. And basically what happens in Stono County is that there's a bunch of people that kind of get mad. Oh, it's in South Carolina. I was way off. Excuse me. South Carolina. And what happens is a bunch of slaves are, obviously angry that they're treated like garbage. And Stono County, I actually pulled up a map to show you where Stono County is. The slaves rebel. They kill like 15 people or something. And by doing this, here's Stono County. As you can see, it's that little red area right there. So it's right by the coast. And basically what happens is they rise up against the people. They kill like 15 people. And then ultimately the state militia comes in and wipes them clean. But what does this say? It's basically this idea that the slaves for the first time are going to stand up against white people and basically like, we're not going to take your crap. We're going to, fight back. If you're going to treat us like dirt, we're going to respond in a violent way. We're going to get our hands on some weapons. It's not the first time that slaves rebel, and it's definitely not the last time. The slaves will fight constantly and consistently over the next 130 years. I think Stono County happens in the 1720s or 30s. They're going to be fighting for their, freedom quite literally up until the 1863 Emancipation Proclamation. So, all right, let's keep going. This is fun. This is fun. Let's go for 10 more minutes, then Mr. C can finally eat some dinner. Not my video. Let's refresh. Any vocab words y'all don't know? Any sort of who's giving me a thumbs down? You know what? You better thumbs down those comments, or I swear I'm just gonna shut this off and you guys don't ever get this again. Thumbing down my tutoring sessions. Jerks. All right, let's see. Did that. Zenger Childs did that. 3 points triangular trade. We did that. Calvinism, that's just, we talked about that whole predestination thing. That's what the Puritans are. They're Calvinists. They believe that God is pretty much already determined whether you're going to heaven or hell before you're even born, which is pretty insane if you ask me. But hey, you know what? You believe in that? That's pretty cool. All right. Let's see. French and Indian War, Bacon's Rebellion, PC Master Race. We have already gone over the PC Master Race. It is a joke. Pontiac's Rebellion. Hey, Reed, I just saw your comment. All you have to really know about Pontiac's Rebellion is we kind of talked about this already with the French and Indian War. Pontiac, he's an Ottawa tribe leader, and he wins some successful battles against the English after the French and Indian War. He's capturing land in like present-day Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. But then the English use biological warfare and give them smallpox blankets, like quite literally blankets with smallpox on them. It kills a bunch of Native Americans. They're weakened, and the English basically wipe the floor with them. Kind of a dirty move, but actually quite genius. My roommate does not approve of the smallpox blankets. Little does he know, I gave him one earlier. All right. So, 8 minutes. You have 8 minutes. Start asking your questions. Do you know everything on the study guide? Is there a question that you might not know? I'm just gonna sit here and look pretty until you guys tell me. And sweaty. I am so sweaty from my workout, so this is disgusting. If you guys are done, I can go shower. This would be great. This is quite literally the worst when you guys aren't asking me questions. My teacher from college just told me I should get off on a tangent. I don't really want to get off on a tangent because I don't want to talk longer. Please, somebody ask me a question. Nope, nothing. All right, 30 seconds. If I don't get a new question, I'm killing it. Sean wants the head right system and call him out. Okay, hi, Sean. All right, head right system. Basically, all you need to know for the head right system was just a way to attract new people to the colonies. It's like, hey, are you a man? Have 50 acres. Do you want to bring your wife? Have 50 acres. Are you white? Have 50 acres. Do you have children? You do. 50 acres per child. So it was just a way for them to like get free land, of which they didn't own. Native Americans are like living on that land going, yo, dude, what the heck? I live here. And then they get shot and they die. So it's like, cool. These white people are dangerous. That was like the moral of the story of watching Pocahontas. So there's the head right system. Kind of sad. I wish I could get 50 acres. I live in like 400 square foot apartment. Why can't I have 50 acres of land? Sweating is nonsense. All right. Sonny, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Michael, you're welcome. Glad you came. What do you run in a 40-yard dash? Really? I'm like tall. That should instantly tell you that I'm not fast. Why is that's not even relevant? Okay, where all the Native American tribes are located? Okay, so in terms of the Native American tribes, if you just know like where everybody is, like the Cherokee are in North Carolina, like Asheville. If you want to know, the Iroquois are in New York, the Algonquin are in Ottawa, or in Montreal, the Ottawa are in Ottawa, the Hurons are in Michigan, the Tuscarora were in Buffalo, New York, and then moved down to like North Carolina. If you know that, then you're good. The Seminole are in Florida. There's Native Americans everywhere. But the Cherokee, the Seminole, the Iroquois, these are the big ones you need to know. Okay? Basically, wherever there's white people, we're kicking somebody that's Native American out. Okay? Hello, Claire Johnson from Mr. Katz's class. I don't even have you in my class and you're watching this. This is awesome. Well, welcome. Let me talk about what you need, which is Vasco da Gama. And Vasco da Gama was an explorer. He was Portuguese. He basically is well known for, being well, he was commissioned by the Portuguese king to find like a route to, finding a route to India. And he did it by going, and this is going to sound really silly, and I'm going to show you a map of what he did. So to get to India, he took the really long way. Like the really long way. In fact, he went around Africa, which is like stupidly windy. And he goes all the way around. He lands in Cape Town, goes all the way around, keeps bombarding here, there, lands in Mombasa, and then boom, lands in Calicut in India. So he finds India, which was his main goal, which is awesome. But he also does it because he has the ability to do it. Hey, look, there's me. I'm like having video inception right now. So with Vasco da Gama and Columbus, you need to learn that they were stupidly long journeys by this sheer ability to navigate with sextants and astrolabes and the caravel ships. These new technologies that had never been made before, and now up to now they're making travel a lot easier. With like an astrolabe, you can like use the stars to pick out which direction you're going to. Nowadays I just like go on my phone and I'm like, Siri, take me to the donut shop. And then boom, I'm at the donut shop. But back then I had to like use my astrolabe to be like, all right, I've got to use the North Star and Orion's belt, and boom, donuts. Okay? Caravel, small, dinky ships that go really far, which I don't find impressive because like indigenous people and like the Vikings went over the entire ocean in like long ships. Way cooler than caravel ships, whatever. These guys like paddled there. Vikings paddled from Iceland to Newfoundland. That's crazy. All right, I'm getting off topic. But there's your answer about Vasco da Gama. Looks like there's other questions. You guys are getting weird. All right, we should get extra points for attending this live stream. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let me take time out of my night to help you, and you get the extra points. I think you guys should be giving me donuts. I want donuts. Bring donuts. Don't bring donuts. Don't bring donuts. I'm kidding. If you brought donuts, I wouldn't be mad, though. For the 50 acres incentive, what was the actual title? That's the headright system. Headright system is the 50 acres per everything. Bye, Reed. Later, Tater. Treaty of Tordesillas. Why does everybody want to know this? Okay. So, of the Treaty of Tordesillas, what you need to know is that it's this idea that any newly lands discovered outside of Portugal, between Europe, between Portugal and Spain, it's just, yeah, it's not really, it's between Spain and Portugal, and they're basically like saying, oh, we're going to split up our land. Land that doesn't belong to you. Awesome. Go, white people. Nothing like giving away something that's not even yours. That's like you guys coming to my apartment and splitting it up with your class and being like, okay, you guys get that. Me and my roommate being like, hey, we live here. Can't be doing this. What's wrong with you? That's all you need to know for the Treaty of Tordesillas. It's not really that important, though. Not for our class. Okay. Oh, it's 8:31? Oh, darn. I have to leave now. All right. So I think that's it. I've really enjoyed doing this. 11 of you still in here. You guys are great. I don't think I really have anything else. Let me check. Failed to fetch notifications. Google's trying to make fetch happen. Fetch isn't going to happen, Google. It's never going to happen. Unbelievable. All right. Sean, I think I already told you what the Treaty of Tordesillas. Slave codes. All right, last thing. I'm going to talk about slave codes, and that's it. I'm going to kill it after slave codes, which is a really depressing way to end it, unfortunately. Slave codes. Slave codes is really easy. Slave codes are the laws that slaves had to follow when they were being enslaved. Like, no slave could have a weapon, which is bananas because everything they used was totally a weapon. Have you seen a sickle? That's like the craziest sword ever. It's like a hooked sword. You like shear things, but like you could totally decapitate like a plantation owner if you snuck up on them, I'm not saying do that, but like you could if you don't know what a sickle is, look it up. In fact, I will show you what a sickle is to prove how deadly of this thing it actually was. Check this out. Hold on. Okay. When I type in sickle, the first thing that comes up is the Grim Reaper. That should show you how crazy these things are. Look at those things. Slaves aren't allowed to have weapons. Okay. Yeah, try not to like wield this thing not as a weapon. All right. So yeah. Another thing that slaves couldn't do is read or write. Yeah. The reason behind this, and this is brilliant, is that slaves were supposed to not be so smart that they could learn about rebellion and rise up against the white people. Yeah, that worked, because you prevent them from getting something, they're not going to rebel either way. Oh yeah, either we abuse them and they rebel, or we give them education and they rebel. See, slavery just doesn't work either way. Just don't use slavery. Just pay your workers and you'll be fine. Other than that, that's all you really need to know about slave codes. They were harshly imposed on the people, and it pissed everybody off. That was a slave. Obviously not the plantation owners. They were pretty happy until they used the sickles to kill them. Unbelievable. All right, guys, go get some sleep. Eat a big breakfast tomorrow. I don't want you guys up any later than 9:30, 10 o'clock. In bed by 10, getting up, eating a good breakfast tomorrow. I recommend eggs, pancakes, waffles. Eat a waffle. I'm not talking about like those lame Eggos. Belgian waffles. You've got a waffle maker, utilize that, okay? Eat something good. Study, don't cram. If you have any questions, you have 26 minutes to shoot me an email or anything. But I'm going to go shower and eat, so if I don't respond, that's why. All right, love you guys. See you tomorrow.